right. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Corso Academy with your host, Pam Grushock. We got Whitney Whitaker down there, and of course, Tony Scandi of Scandifio Cane Corso. Today's episode, we have Ian Donovan on. Ian is from a dog food company that we respect, and we wanted him to come on to talk about a little dog food nutrition. So Ian is from Kinetic Dog Food. Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you have not. You will know what it is by the end of this episode. So Ian, we wanted to have you on to talk about dog food nutrition because everybody wants to know what to feed their dog. And a lot of people from this platform, especially Whitney as a trainer and Tony as a breeder, comes to them to ask them, what should we feed our dog and why? So we wanted to have you on to kind of cover all the bases. And of course, you can talk about your dog food brand, but we really want to get down to what's the best kind of dog food to feed and why and all of those things.
Great. Well,
thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's not a very exciting topic. I get that, but I will try to make it as exciting and informative as I can. And I'll be upfront with you guys. This is not a Kinetic infomercial. I hate that. I just want to tell you guys the truth about performance canine nutrition or canine nutrition in general, what to look for in a healthy dog food, a performance dog food, and what to stay away from in, some food that's lacking in those regards.
No, I love that. I think that's great. And it might not be an exciting topic, but it's a very important topic.
I think it's exciting. I actually do. I like
coming from the nutrition expert herself,
It's
the human nutrition expert.
extremely important topic. Extremely.
Yeah.
You get questions every day, all the time with this stuff, all the time. So it's extremely important topic. That's why we're doing it on the podcast.
And we need help navigating the space because there's a lot going on, just like human nutrition. It's just like everything's coming left and right. So Whitney, you wanted to start out with one of your favorite questions and topics when it comes to dog food nutrition.
Yeah. So I went down a rabbit hole several years ago and I was just going crazy trying to
not to cut you off with, give me one second. I just want to say one thing before, because I want to make sure that people people think that nutrition's not important. Like I said before on the podcast, we're not bringing anybody on here that isn't extreme experts in training, extreme experts in dog food. He's an expert. This guy is a nutritionist. He's an expert. He's done it. He's lived it. He's an expert on this. So everything he's going to talk about is expert advice. Experts, not an opinion. It's expert researched advice. So for the people that are like, it's about dog food, I'm not going to watch this shit. You should watch it because you're feeding your dog food. Everybody should watch this to the end. It's going to be incredible.
Dog has to eat.
Fire away. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut off, but fire away. I just wanted people to know because some people might say, hey, you know what? It's not an episode I'm interested in. It's not training. It's not breeding. But here's the reality. Without good nutrition, you don't have good breeding. Without good nutrition, you don't have good training. You don't have good dogs. So it's a positive, very, very important subject. So go ahead and fire away.
Thank you, Tony.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've talked with Ian and other nutrition experts before, and Ian knows his stuff for sure. So definitely an expert. Happy to have you here with us. So a few years ago, I went down a rabbit hole of researching all kinds of kibbles and fresh foods, right? And for me, I landed on that raw is the best. That's my belief system, right? Now, there's a lot of people who might disagree with me, but I believe through my research that it's the best. And then here's the deal. I put my dogs on raw. Incredible difference it made in my dogs. And so I'm a believer. You cannot make me believe that not feeding a balanced raw diet is not the best. Emphasis on balanced raw diet. Because if you don't do it balanced, then it's like you could be feeding your dog it couldn't be worse than if it was not balanced. But a balanced raw diet, in my opinion, is absolutely the best. And the proof is in the pudding in my dogs. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the deal. I got a lot of dogs. I got a whole pack of dogs and they're Corsos, right? It gets extremely expensive. And although I do anything for my dogs, I'm like, I gotta somehow make this a little more affordable. And also, I work a lot and raw can be time consuming if you do all the prep yourself. Right, I've done it both ways. I've prepped it all myself, and then I found an incredible guy who does raw food, and I got it from him. Both ways I had success, but now it's getting to a point where expense-wise, it's not working for me. So my question to you Ian, would be, what would you say to somebody like me who's at a point where I think I'm going to have to go down the kibble route and it keeps me up at night because I really believe that raw is the best? What would you say to somebody like me?
Well, we get that question all the time. I get that question all the time. And the truth of the matter is, you're absolutely correct. A balanced raw diet is the best diet for dogs. It's the way they were designed to consume food. But the tricky part is what you just alluded to, balance. So many people do it incorrectly. They'll just go to the store, get meat, skin, and bone and feed it to their dogs. And a dog that's not getting fed the entire carcass, the entrails, the cleaned entrails, the organs are the most nutrient dense portion of any carcass. So if you're not feeding organ meat, you're really, really going to have a nutrient and vitamin deficient dog. The feet of poultry, that's really super high glucosamine chondroitin, but the stomach lining, the lining of the stomach and the intestinal lining is very, very nutritious as well. And that's just stuff that people don't want to see because it's ugly for humans, but it's the way the dogs are designed to eat. So 100%, every time somebody talks to me about raw, man, I applaud you if you can do it. At scale, it's difficult to do. We understand that. And if you're going to pick a kibble, my advice is to choose a kibble that as closely resembles the raw diet as possible. And that's what we have. We want to mimic nature as closely as possible because that's what these dogs came from, right? So that is why there are certain ingredients in our food, and we'll talk about that stuff. They're in there for a reason because it's going to mimic the raw diet as closely as possible. And then you need to know how processed your food is that you're going to be feeding these dogs, your kibble, right? There's some kibble that's ultra processed. Ours is cooked at 195 degrees for a reason. We don't want to kill a lot of the things that are in that food, the enzymes that are going to help the dog's gut health. Again, we'll talk about gut health. It's the most important part of your dog's immune system and health in general. But again, know how processed it is, know what type of preservatives you're using, know all the ingredients in the food, and see if it can prove to you how closely it mimics a raw diet. That's what we're looking for.
All right. So you said you cook at 195 degrees. So why don't we go into that just a little bit? So what does what do other companies typically cook their dog food at?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and badmouth other companies or tell you what other companies do. I'll tell you what we do, but I will tell you that there's a reason we cook our chicken at 350 degrees for human consumption. Okay, there are things in meat-based proteins and fats that our bodies are not equipped to handle. A dog's body can handle it and needs to have the ability to handle that. So it's very important, again, that you should talk to these dog food companies. Call them up, ask them questions. One of my favorite things to ask a dog food company is not the temperature of what you cook your food, but it's if they have a whole meat as their first ingredient, which we'll get into. How much of your protein percentage comes from that meat source and how much of it comes from grain? Because a whole meat source is 70 to 75% water. It's cooked, dehydrated, pulverized, and ground. It falls out of the top 5 ingredients, which make up 85% of what's in that food. So ask them those questions. If you see whole chicken as the first ingredient, ask them how much of their protein claim comes from chicken. And then if you see corn protein meal, soybean meal, corn germ meal, or wheat meal in that profile as well, ask them how much of their protein percentage comes from plant-based ingredients. We put it on the front of our bag. Victor still puts it on the front of their bag. I think every company should put that information on the bag, but they don't because it's a game that's played in the industry.
Yeah. Interesting. That's really good.
So 195 degrees is like it's preserving all of the nutrition, is what you're saying.
It is preserving around nutrition, but then you got to look at preservatives as well. Use organic preservatives, natural preservatives. You want to stay away from inorganic preservatives that we can talk about them, but they're 100% cancer causing, and they hammer the organs of the dog as well. And I'll name them once we get to that point, but the way that it's cooked, the ingredients that are actually in the food are very important. And then the preservatives that you're utilizing not only preserve the fat and the protein, but they preserve the minerals in the food. And your dog needs all the minerals he can get out of that product.
Yeah, makes sense. So you said something on one of your podcasts, one that I watched an episode, and you said something about maybe it was on Instagram, about putting the kibble in a cup of water to see if it was just consistent across the board. And I think that's something that some of us miss. I don't know, Whitney and Tony, if you've had seen that or not, but I actually tried it with the kibble that I have.
No,
Just to see.
this, what is it?
So you can go ahead and explain it, Ian, but yeah, I tried it, but go ahead and explain that.
Well,
Like the test to see if your dog food is consistent, at least.
Yeah, a lot of people do it. I mean, I will put water in the food every single time I feed. So yes, it's a dry kibble, but in nature, the dogs really are going to drink a whole lot less than our dogs because they're eating raw foods which have moisture in it. When you feed a kibble, moisture is removed. So I always put water in the food. Now with our food, it's going to sink to the bottom because a dense food that's not porous, that's been sealed properly, is going to have that density in it. So it's going to sink to the bottom of the bowl, depending on how much water you put in there, right? But if you have a food that's floating, that's something that you need to consider. The more density of the kibble, the heavier the kibble, it should sink to the bottom. The better it's sealed up, less air pockets, less fluff.
Well, I think too, the point was, you said put it in a cup of water and see, like, even if it floats or sinks, at least the kibble's consistent across the board, cooked across the board. Like if you have one sink and one float, it was kind of a bad sign that it was inconsistently cooked. So I thought that was a pretty cool take home point, like whatever kibble that you have at home, just see if it's at least cooked consistently, because that's kind of your point in the nutrition you talk about, is to talk about, all the ingredients consistent all the time. So,
well, yeah, you got to have a locked in formula. Just because the verbiage on the back of the bag doesn't change, I can prove to you how you still are not feeding a locked in formula, because they leave a lot of room for variation. And that's what we talk about. I don't want consumers to get hung up on the front of the bag and all the marketing and advertising and, excuse my language, but bullshit on the front of the bag. You need to learn how to flip the bag around and look at the ingredients and understand exactly what you're putting in your dog. Because the front of the bag is really just made to get your attention, to tell you some sweet little lies. The dog is going to tell you the truth. His performance, his energy level, his recovery rates, that's where the truth is going to lie. But you can know what you're putting in here by reading the ingredient list and understanding how to do that. So that's really what we educate people on how to do, is understand an ingredient list.
Absolutely. And that's where, like, even Tony and I, right, it's like we're watching the dogs, right? For me, it's why I became a believer in raw. But you just watch the dog, right? The dog always tells you the story of what's going on, right? And so I love that. Also, that was a great idea too, to put the water in the kibble, because I see that with my raw fed dogs. My raw fed dogs drink almost you guys it would blow your mind. Like they almost don't drink at all any water through the day, a little bit here or there. On kibble, I feel like, oh my gosh, they're drinking all the time. So that's a great idea to add a little bit of water in with their food.
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said you've got to read the performance or the activity of the dog. Guys, before I was ever involved in dog food, I was a dog handler in special operations in the military. So my ability to read my dog's behavior is the reason that I'm sitting here talking to you today. Our dogs found bombs before we did and found bad guys before we did. So that's where I got the most experience with fueling performance dogs. These dogs are comprised of three components: genetics, training, and nutrition. I mean, Tony can tell you all about genetics. You guys know how to train. I know Tony does as well. But the third leg of that stool is nutrition. And if that stool doesn't have three strong legs, it's not going to stand. So you can hammer on genetics and training. You've got to understand nutrition, how to fuel the genetics and the training.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Tony, what have you seen as far as, I know you have a lot of stories that you've shared, but what have you seen as far as dogs like that haven't had the proper nutrition? What are some things that you've seen in your decades of breeding?
Yeah, I'm going to, I'll give a bunch of quick stories in a row real fast to try to get it done. I don't want to, bore the whole podcast, but it's really good information. People are going to want
a whole podcast with that. So kind of the things maybe other people are seeing these things that they're not realizing.
Right, they don't know. So nutrition for me in dog food is key. It's number one. You don't hear me talk about it. You don't see me ever get on and talk about it, because to most people it doesn't matter, because they don't understand the importance of it. So with me, it's totally opposite. Like I said, I've been doing this stuff 37 years, and even Rottweilers prior to this breed, so probably 40 years. And, I've seen it all. And unfortunately, I fed a lot of the foods that had some serious problems and recalls and issues. And, without naming names, I don't have to name the names. And it's all public information. You go online and see these different stories. So, way back, my first issue, I was raising some incredible dogs. The genetics were there. and always sifting through genetics. And you can tell when there's issues with genetics, you just get it out of the program. Just get rid of it. We're not going to mess around with it. We're not going to pawn it off to somebody else so they can go breed it. We're going to, just get it out. It's going to go as family pets or, bad dispositions, temperaments. They're going to get euthanized humanely. It's not stuff you want to pass around. Dog food to me is everything. Like, I'm one of them guys that I'm not supplementing. I'm not going to add stuff to my food. If the dog food doesn't make my dogs look incredible, work incredible, produce incredible, whelp incredible, it's garbage. I'm not going to use it. And I've tried in tons and tons of different foods. So many years ago, I bought a food and it was doing okay for a long time. And I'm taking my dogs to the vet. There's all kind of issues. This is way back in, like, I want to say the early 2000s. I want to say right around then. Taking the dogs to the vet over and over again. We're doing all kind of testing. I'm losing puppies. The puppies aren't even, they're 3 weeks old. They look like they're 5 days old. And it's like, what in the world is going on? My adults are laying around lethargic. We're doing test after test, $4,000 or $5,000 into testings, and can't come up with nothing. I got one of the number one veterinarians in the world, Dr. Hutchison, one of the number one reproduction specialists absolutely in the world. He goes and does seminars on the big, boat every year on the big AKC cruise. He's looked at as number one in the world, and he's doing all the tests for me. And one day he calls me. He says, "Hey, Tone, I got a problem. We figured it out." I said, "We figured it out. We're waiting on biopsies from all these different, we're sending biopsies off on all kind of stuff and can't figure it out. Like, it's beyond us, and even him." He says, "Turn your TV on." He says, "Put on CNN." I said, "Put on CNN? What the hell does that have to do with my dog food?" He's like, "It's national." He said, this shit's so big and so bad. It's all over the country. There's dogs dying everywhere, puppies dying everywhere. I put on CNN, and sure as shit, it's the hot topic of the day. And it's all about this dog food. It's killing dogs everywhere. Well, unfortunately, that's the shit I was feeding. So all those tests, $5,000 in tests, and probably $50,000 in lost puppies and sick adults that I was worried they weren't even going to make it through. The food, all these foods want to bring, they want to make it cheap and make a ton of money, and that's a problem. So what we found out, and it was public, was that company was importing, I want to say it was rice or corn from China, bringing it over from China because it's dirt cheap. Well, the food that they brought over had a spirilla fungus in it, and when cooked, it turned into an aflatoxin. It was wiping the livers out, kidneys out, just destroying the dogs, killing them all over the country. Have switched to dog foods, and within, thankfully within 6 weeks, 2 months, the dogs all recovered and they were doing fine. Lost litter after litter, filed the claim. They never did nothing for me. And I'd love to say the name, but I'm just not going to do that. We don't have to go to that level. So I switched to a different food, having good success for probably 6-7 years. No problems. I see a dog come out to my house and dog looks incredible. The coat's shining like you can't imagine. Man, what are you feeding? He tells me what he's feeding. So I'm going to try that stuff. So I start trying it, having great success with it. Dog's looking incredible. I switched from the other food that I had success with for 7 years. One of the dumbest moves I ever made. So, I'm like really, really researching tons of different foods to try to make sure you're using the right food, learning all the things that Ian's talking about, about protein and carbs and, everything different, all the what they're preserved with. He's right on the money with everything. The temperatures of the heat, that's stuff that I studied. And, I'm like an OCD guy, studied the hell of all that shit. I was just recently talking to my cousin who owns 2 big major nationwide companies about coming up with the dog food and marketing it. And, didn't do it, not going to that level. But, like talking with Ian, I mean, they know what they're talking about. He knows what he's talking about. So the other company that I switched over to, within 2 years, all of a sudden I got litter, same thing. Looks like the same thing, like a relapse of what happened before. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? I got puppies that aren't growing, and, I got buddies all over the different states and different areas. I'm talking like halfway across the country, and they're having the same problems with the puppies. And I'm like, man, what is this? So I'm taking females and, I'm blaming it on the moms. I'm taking puppies off the moms, putting them on surrogates that my buddies own. And as soon as they're off the moms, puppies are doing incredible. Well, I'm blaming mom. So we're doing the same thing. We're doing testings with the puppies, sending them off biopsies to Dr. Hutchison, one of the top repros in the country. Probably another $4,000 or $5,000 I spend trying to figure out what in the world is going on. One day he calls me. He's like, I think we got it. He says, what are you feeding? I told him the food. He's like, switch immediately. I said, you want me to do like a slow transmission? He says, no, immediately change the food. I said, what the hell's it got to do with the food? He said, remember how I told you that the puppies they were full. Their bellies were full. They got great milk in their bellies and everything. I said, yeah. He's like, well, here's the problem. After these puppies were tested, there's a serious nutritional deficit coming from the mother's milk. There's no nutrition in it. The only thing that can cause that is bad food. So we switched to food. All these people across the country, I'm telling them when they're calling me, switch to food. They're going to any of the off-brand foods at the supermarket. Didn't matter what they were switching to. Immediately on day one, they're losing no more puppies. Their puppies start taking off and growing. Well, what I find out, that food sold to Procter & Gamble. They don't have to tell you. They don't have to advertise it. So, they're obviously putting in some garbage ingredients, killing puppies and litters all over the country. That same food right now, the last couple of years, I'm not going to name it, all kind of people. There's a big website, a group all over the internet about all kind of, reproductive problems, reproductive issues, puppies dying, semen counts low. It's destroying dogs. You know what I mean? So a lot of these companies don't care about anything but making money, and how could they make it cheaper? So they sold out. So, after that, I switched to another company. A couple, about a year in, the food's doing good. And sure as shit, man, I get 2 dogs and they start, a little bit hair loss on the shoulder. I'm like, oh man, we got issues here. So I take the dogs, get them tested. Dr. Hutch, there's no issues, Tony. There's no problems. What are you feeding? I said, man, it can't be the food. There's no way. I mean, it's just, all it is 2 little spots. Maybe it's hot spots, summertime. He said, I don't know. So I'm feeding it some more, and I start seeing like these coats getting dingy. And I'm like, because that stuff you notice as an educated person, dingier coats. And I'm like, we got some issues going on. So I asked the dog food driver that's bringing it to my house. I say, man, let me ask you a question. You get any complaints from anybody else? No, nothing at all. I said, you sure? You're not bullshitting me. He's like, no, I'm not, man. I said, all right. I said, well, I'm having problems, and I think it's the food. I'm not going to blame it right now, but I mean, I just spent probably $4 or $5 grand, and we can't come up with anything. Food so far has been the problem a couple times for me. So I really think there's something wrong with the food. No, I called the company. No, nothing. No issues, nothing at all. I called the distributor. No, I mean, I don't think they sold out. They knew damn well they sold out. So then about 2 months after that, the guy that's, the driver comes out. He said, hey, man, he's got the pallet up on the load still. And he said, hey, listen, man, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't tell on me. I says, man, I'm not going to tell on you. What do you want to tell me? He says, you're like, what you're talking about. You really study. He's like, listen, that company, they did sell out. He says, and now a couple months later, other people are starting to ask me questions, but you're the first one that caught it. Like, you caught it months ago. And I'm like, load that shit right back up. Don't even take it off there. I appreciate it. No one's ever going to know. And he's like, all right, well, are you going to switch to something else our company carries? I said, yeah, man, I'm going to switch. I said, but just tell them that I'm blaming the food. Sure shit, it got released. They were having all kind of issues with the food. Another big company sold out again. And who knows what they added. That didn't kill puppies, but it was causing coat issues. Months later, I try another dog food that a lot of people are hyping up. My dog's coats went from gleaming, shining to dingy, and I'm out. That food's out. So like Ian's talking about, you got to see what the results are. Where he's a working guy in the military, he's seen what the results are on the working field, on how the dogs are working. Whitney, you're a working girl. You've seen how the raw was doing for you on the working field. And that's all extremely important stuff. But me, I'm a breeder. I have to have dogs that can whelp good, the mothers can milk good, that can hold weight. It's serious. Nutrition is very serious for a breeder. So, I tried a couple different foods. I ended up landing on a food that I like a lot, that I've been with for probably the last, I'd say probably 9 years. I've had 0 issues. I've talked to the company direct, and I said, listen, you guys ever considering selling out? They're like, absolutely not. We're never going to sell out. I said, listen, if you tell me you're considering down the road, I'm done. I'm finding somebody else. So I haven't switched. I love the food. It's doing great for me. I have little pet peeves, and, it's a pet peeve. Like sometimes the puppies, a little bit down on their fronts, not as up on their toes as I like, something minor. But I'm not OCD. It's not my genetics. It's this food is doing this. I even called the companies, talked with the nutritionists from the companies. And you can get on the phone with these people if you'll sit and wait long enough. And they said, no, listen, there's nothing going on. We're doing this. We're doing that. So I said, okay, well, I'm sticking with it. I tried a different food just because of it. And I kind of went backwards even to a cheaper food, talked about how great the milk production is and all this and that. And it was great. Dogs were doing great for about 2 years. And then all of a sudden, my female's nipples are ready to explode. And I'm like, what's going on here? I called the company. I say, it's written right on your bag. It's talking about milk production, and you guys use this stuff to ensure milk production. I said, listen, did you hire somebody new in that department? They're like, what do you mean? I says, I think they spilled a little too much of that shit. I says, I got milk production so much that my female's teats are ready to blow out. My puppies can't even grab onto them and nurse. I had to switch foods, and it went right away. So, it's extremely important. Like for a breeder, it's a really, really crucial thing. So, and I told Ian the last time we spoke to him, there's only been 2 other dog foods other than what I'm feeding that I've ever had interest in and even did any research on. One of them was theirs. And my distributor told me about theirs. I seen it in the store, and I'm like, man, this shit looks like it can be some really good stuff. Petrified to try it, scared to death to try it. But every time reading about it, I'm like, man, if I want another alternative that may get something and may straighten up them fronts and not have that one little tiny issue I'm having, maybe I'll give this shit a try. I've never tried it. I've been scared to death. After talking with Ian, I'm going to try it. I'm going to get a couple bags. We're going to give it a try on a couple dogs. If it does great and it keeps the front straight and that little thing is fine and the litters are great and the whelping is great, I'm going to probably switch over a couple pregnant females, give it a try. Maybe I'll switch over. Everything that I've heard you talk about, Ian, is dead on the money. Like you're an expert, period.
And that takes time. That takes time. Like that.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm an expert, but in my opinion, like I've done so much OCD research for my own dogs for what they do and how they whelp and how they grow and how their coats are, even how their eyes look. You see some dog foods, they got gunk all in their eyes. It's the food. It's toxins in everything. Like
that takes years of, like you said, trial and error with the puppies and the litters and knowing what to look for, the genetics. And Whitney, I know you see also kind of like Ian, that's kind of what you got you into this, right? Like seeing your dogs not perform.
Yeah. Well, there are performance issues, but skin and coat issues. So again, like Tony said, first we look at the exterior of the dog, right? We see what he looks like physically. Okay. Muscle development, skin and coat. Either is he overweight? Is there an inability to maintain weight? And then let's start talking about hot spots, rashes, bald spots,
like
fringing around the ears. Floppy-eared dogs have fringing around the ears or balding behind the ears. That's mineral deficiency. And we'll talk each one of these deficiencies I'm talking about. I'll tell you how nutrition plays a role in it. But yes, from there, the only other part of the outside of the dog we can see other than eyes and teeth is a stool. Stool is extremely important to tell you what's going on the inside of that dog. When we see stool, I want to see 1 stool, maybe 2 a day. It needs to be hard enough to pick up out of the kennel with my hand and throw it. And I'm not going to get any feces on my hand. That's what we want in stool. We'll talk about why that's important. But again, a lot of these people that think their dogs have skin and coat issues or coat issues, you have a skin health issue. The minerals in the food, the fat in the food, the omega-6s and 3s in the food aren't making their way into the bloodstream, into the skin, the dermal layer. So a healthy skin pore, right, that holds onto the hair follicle has oil in it. And that oil conditions the hair follicle all the way to the tip of the hair follicle. When there's an absence of that oil in that skin pore, bacteria can get in. That's where you have bald spots and rashes and hair loss. Okay, so it's not a coat issue, it's a skin health issue. It's in the food. That is 100% diet related. I love veterinarians to death, but our veterinarian only saw our dogs when they broke a limb or got shot or blown up. That was it. We were very proactive instead of having to be reactive. So when she was giving us medication for GI tract issues, skin and coat health issues, or prescription diets, which is another thing veterinarians try to tout, because veterinarians, as good as they are at medicine, that's what they're good at, medicine. They're not good at nutrition. So they will rectify deficiencies with surgeries and medications when it's really, if you're proactive, you're not even going to get to that point to need that. But again, prescription diet, I can do a whole podcast on that alone. What a joke that is. I mean, it's just a money-making scam.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, weight maintenance issues, again, that is a clear sign of the dog's not getting enough calories, but I'm feeding 560 kcals per cup. Those kcals can come from plant-based ingredients. Okay. We need them to come from ingredients that the dog can absorb and put to work in their body. So when we talk about dog food, what you want to have is a very nutrient-dense food. If you have a nutrient-dense food, it's got to be very bioavailable. So nutrient density is first and foremost. Bioavailability is second. The ability of the dog to absorb the nutrition and convert it to energy. That's what we do. We feed energetic dogs. probably the most energetic dogs around. So nutrient density, bioavailability, really, really easy for them to absorb the nutrition and digest it. You have got to limit your change in risk with stability in your formulation. So have a locked in formula. That comes into play when we start reading ingredients. Okay. But to have a locked in formula, all of your proteins and fats need to be identified. Okay. Proteins, a good dog food is comprised of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, fibers, and minerals. Okay. So if you want to talk about those 5 components real quick, we can kind of go down the list. But proteins, we want animal-based proteins over plant-based proteins, 100%. And you're feeding raw. Are you feeding corn cobs or are you feeding a meat source, right? We don't get protein from plant-based materials. We get carbohydrates from plant-based materials. They need to be varied and plentiful. We'll talk about that when we get there. But proteins need to be animal-based. Stay away from whole meats, because when you see whole meat of any source on the back of the bag, that's 70% water. Ingredients are listed in order by pre-cooked weight in this country. So whole meat source gets to be labeled as the first ingredients because in its pre-cooked stage, it's the heaviest, right? But when you cook, dehydrate, pulverize it, and grind it, you lose 70% of that content. So it falls out of the top 5 ingredients. 9 times out of 10, when you have a whole meat as your first ingredient, the second and third ingredients are going to be plant-based protein. So if you have whole chicken, then corn protein meal, then soybean meal, your dog is being fueled. His muscles are being fueled by corn protein meal and soybean meal, not from chicken. So these people tell me they have a chicken allergy. I said, no, you're not feeding your dog chicken. It's nowhere in his diet, really. You're feeding him corn protein meal and soybean meal, which we want to stay away from corn, wheat, and soy because they're macro grains and they're all genetically modified. You're going to get a different strain in every batch. And that adds variation as well to your formula. So make sure that when you have protein sources, you have meals and byproduct meals. I know that byproduct meal sounds terrible for us. We don't want to see it in our food. I don't want to see it. But a chicken byproduct meal is chicken meat, skin, bone, necks, unborn eggs, cleaned entrails, the feet, and the organs that have already been ground and dried. So it's the entire carcass. Again, we're mimicking the raw diet concept. Instead of just feeding the chicken meat, skin, and bone with all the water in it that gets cooked out, you're feeding the entire carcass that's already been ground and dried. So 1,000 pounds of whole chicken, you're getting about 300 pounds of protein out of that. 1,000 pounds of corn protein or of chicken byproduct meal or chicken meal, you're getting 967 or 900. It's somewhere between 967, 970 something pounds of protein because it comes as a powder already with all the moisture removed. So it's much, much more nutrient dense.
Let me ask you one quick question, Ian, while you're on that. Is it okay?
Yeah, man.
On that right there. So what you're talking about is kind of, it hits home. I talk with Dr. Hutchison all the time, about nutrition and food and stuff and dog foods. And, one of the things, if you go to these dogfoodanalysis.com and stuff, they'll tell you that a lot of these dog foods that have, the what is it called? The
byproduct meal.
Byproduct meal, that they're better used as fertilizer. That's what they'll say. And I'm like, ooh, that's crazy. My dogs did outstanding on this shit, better used as fertilizer. So Dr. Hutchison's opinion, he says, listen, man, he goes, these people take these dog foods and they put cranberries and apples and shit on them on the bag to make it look enticing to us. Like we want to eat it. Mm-hmm. We're not eating it. The dogs are eating it. Yeah. That shit ain't shit dogs are going to ever eat. They don't eat that stuff, period. No. It's not what they eat. No. But he says that's what a lot of the dog food companies make it look like that. His opinion, and it's a fact, and like you just said the same thing, you get way more protein out of the byproduct. If, animals in the wild, then he said, take a wolf out in the wild and it goes out, or anything, lion, whatever it is, goes out in the wild, it kills an animal. First thing it eats is its guts. Mm-hmm. The guts are the first thing eaten out of the animal. That stuff is extremely, extremely important to the animal eating it. Then they eat the meat, which, the protein stuff. They eat the bones, it's calcium. Mm-hmm. They eat everything. They don't leave it out. So why as dog food companies, why as people do we want to pretend we're going to leave all that out? Or not pretend, leave it all out to make it sound better for human consumption. Yeah. We're not eating the dog food.
What's a marketing?
What you're talking about, correct?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. When you look at nature and how they consume a carcass, they start with the stomach content.
Right.
There's a reason for that. There's fermentation in the plant product that's in the rumen or the stomach of the animal. So that's why we have, when it comes to fiber, you need to have a fermented fiber source. Dried beet pulp should be in every single dog food that's available.
What was it? Dried beet pulp? Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
dried canned beet pulp. It's got the sugar removed, so
Yeah.
it's got a fermentation point, and that bacteria in the fermentation process is vital for the gut health of your dog. Okay, there's good bacteria in the gut and there's bad bacteria. We want to increase the good and decrease the bad, but good bacteria needs to be fed something. So that dried beet pulp should be in every dog food. That's where we get our fiber from. Protein, again, look for meals and byproduct meals. Have them be named. If we're going to do a byproduct meal, I'd rather chicken or turkey as opposed to poultry. Okay, that's another very simple. Poultry byproduct meal is a meat-based byproduct meal, but you're going to have a variation of poultries. Okay, name it, identify it. You're going to have a locked-in formula. Same thing with fats. Okay, animal fat. Yes, we want animal fats in there, but it should be chicken fat, beef fat, pork fat. It shouldn't just be animal fat, because they do that so that they can shop price for fat when they're making a batch of dog food. And if chicken fat is cheaper than pork fat at this point in time, that's what's going in there. But in the next one, you could have pork fat or beef fat or any animal that's available.
So that's why you might be seeing a lot of inconsistencies with your dog, because last month's bag of dog food, it had pork fat in it. This month's bag of dog food is going to have chicken fat in it or something like that. And you're like, I don't understand. Like, it's kind of like this. I gotcha.
Same
I've
thing
actually
with
seen that in my own dog. Like I'm like, I thought that dog food was great. Now he's like, why is he pooping so much? So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ian, let me ask you this question. So
Yes.
you said a comment earlier, and I caught that comment, locked in ingredients. Now, is there something through like APCO or whoever you guys got to get approved by, that's locked in ingredients means it's the same ingredients, same place, every single time, every single bag? They can't change stuff. That some dog food companies don't have that, and they're allowed to change stuff. So it would say it on the bag, correct? How it's different, correct?
It's not going to tell you on the bag at all. It's going to be your ability to look at the ingredients and see poultry byproduct meal instead of chicken byproduct.
Okay.
Or chicken fat instead of animal fat.
I got you.
Or menhaden fish meal or salmon meal or herring meal as opposed to fish meal, right? If it's just fish meal, man, it could be catfish meal.
Right.
Fish meal is more nutritious.
Yeah.
Menhaden fish meal, it's not. But you look at it and you're uneducated on how to see it, and you think it's got fish meal. That's good.
Right.
Man, it's not good.
You said the word catfish. Another quick question, since you said that. There's some different dog foods out there, and you're not gonna name the foods, but catfish compared to salmon. What's the reality of the difference in that? Is there anything you could tell me on that stuff?
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about, but I'd love to know the difference, the reality difference from a specialist like yourself.
It matters. Your omega-6 and 3 levels matter, whether it's coming from a cold water fish or a warm water fish. Okay. So the type of fish that's in there, make sure it's a cold water fish. That's going to be some better omega-6s and 3s for your dog. They're fattier fish, Okay. They have got to have that ability to survive in colder water than the warm water fish do.
So catfish is stronger than salmon?
No. Catfish is a warm water fish. It's also warm. You want to stay away from it. Most of your fish meal is going to be stuff that's coming from rendering houses, from human consumption.
Okay.
Is going to be a much cheaper fish meal than, a salmon meal or a menhaden fish meal. Okay. Now, again, you don't want whole fish in there. You want the meal because it's already been ground and dried.
Meal is all of it, guts and everything.
Absolutely.
Okay. Right. You need that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of this just kind of lends to the conversation that Whitney often talks about, people humanizing their dogs so much. And, like you said, we see, even myself as somebody who has spent her life with nutrition, and you see something on a bag and you're like, oh, byproducts, because like you said, it's completely different when you look at it from that aspect. So that makes all the sense. But I think we do humanize that too. Like Tony said, putting blueberries on the bag is for us, not for the dog.
Yeah. Dr. Hutchinson, when he said that to me, it's funny. It's like he looks at me and he say, let me ask you a question. You eating the food? I'm not eating. He said, well, if you're eating it, buy that shit. If you're feeding it to your dogs, buy this.
Yeah.
Real simple.
Dog food companies understand that we don't want to see byproduct meal as an ingredient, but they also understand how good a byproduct meal is. So instead of labeling a byproduct meal and taking the entire carcass, they're going to take the organs. So you'll see chicken lung, chicken liver, chicken heart, all these different components of a byproduct meal, they'll just list it out instead of labeling byproduct meal, because they don't want to scare their consumers off, the people that are reading the back of the bag. Man, a byproduct meal, again, is the most nutrient dense form of, especially a poultry meal that's out there.
Yeah.
So again, proteins need to be animal based and identified. Meals and byproduct meals instead of whole meats. Fats need to be animal based as well, and they need to be identified. Your carbohydrates. Dogs utilize protein for muscle building and development. They use fat for energy. Animal fat they use for sustained energy, so all day energy. And again, I found kinetic dog food when I was in special operations because I needed dogs to go when I needed them to and for as long as I needed them to. We don't get the option of hunting when we choose to over there for how long we want to hunt for. So I needed them to go and go and go, and that's where the animal fat really is a great source for sustained energy. Carbohydrates are very important for dogs. They do need the right type and the right amount. They need to be broken down. They need to be micrograins instead of macro grains. So brewer's rice and brown rice and ground grain sorghum are excellent ones. Stay away from whole grains of any sort, especially macro grains, corn, wheat, or soy. But carbohydrates give your dog an immediate glucose spike, an immediate energy source. So for your companion pets who are just playing fetch with you for 30 minutes a day and then lounging on the couch, we've come up with a formula that should be ready in April for the public. But you're getting more of that spike of an energy, less protein, less fat because they don't need it. But again, the carbohydrates are used for that immediate glucose spike. So dogs do need them. Flaxseed, they need prebiotics, carbohydrates and fiber. I would say fiber needs to be a fermented source. Again, every single dog food should have dry plain beet pulp in it. There are some prebiotic properties there. And then things like flaxseed for prebiotics is a really good ingredient as well. Stay away from these ingredients like you just touched on. All the things that sound healthy for me to eat, it has no place in a dog's diet.
Right.
But again, dogs do need that fermented product that they're getting in nature out of the gut content of the animal. Again, if I make a bad shot on a deer and I go find him the next day, what's eaten is the guts and the organs. Right. Because that's the most nutrient dense portion of that carcass. I can still harvest the red meat that I like to eat. They're going to come back for that. But in order to be able to absorb that and break it down, they need that, that fermented fiber in their gut themselves.
Right. Now, when you're saying the beet pulp and stuff like that, the beet stuff, now you made a comment. You said that it actually is the prebiotic. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. So when a lot of the bags of food, you'll see that says right on there they have prebiotic. They don't tell you what it is. Actually, they add something special. Mm-hmm. So like your dog food that has the beet pulp, it has prebiotic too.
Yeah.
You guys don't even have it listed on the bag, or do you have it on the bag written?
Oh no, the ingredients are there. Sure,
is it written there? But it's not written prebiotic.
We don't tout prebiotics. I mean it's not that we don't tout it. We do tell you it's full of pre and probiotics, right. And there's actually other ingredients in there that are added prebiotic and postbiotic and probiotic benefits. But your dried plain beet pulp has got some prebiotic function, as well as flaxseed, as well as chicory root. Again, that's why it's in our dog food.
Yeah, and the only reason I asked, a lot of the dog foods, they sell their dog food on making sure that's advertised that it's prebiotic, probiotic in the food.
Yeah,
that's their selling technique, and like you guys obviously have it, and it's not even on the bag. Like you
want it to come from nature. A lot of times when they're advertising it, it's because it's in some sort of a synthetic form.
So they could be adding more.
Right. You want to stay away from anything that's synthetic.
Okay.
You just want the most natural ingredients in there as possible.
Okay.
So yeah, again, people are going to say, minerals is the last thing that dog food is comprised of. It's probably the most important. It's the thing that's most often overlooked.
Right.
But now people are starting to say on the front of their bag in big bold letters, made with organic minerals. Mm-hmm. Because the consumer's starting to realize how important that is.
Well, gotcha.
But on the back of the bag, when you flip it over, you'll have zinc, for instance, zinc sulfate, zinc oxide, then zinc chelate. Again, ingredients listed in order by pre-cooked weight. So if you have two inorganic forms of that compound and then you have the organic mineral, you have very, very little organic mineral. But they're not mentioning on the front of the bag anything but the organic minerals.
Nothing about it. I got you.
Right. Just do your due diligence, flip it around, and understand what you're looking at. So minerals, extremely important. You should only have organic minerals in your food. Those are chelates and proteinates. They've already got amino acids bound to them. So absorption rates for organic minerals are 90%. Absorption rates for inorganic minerals are 60% and 30%. So when you see a dog that's very nutrient deficient, and a dog who's eating his own stool potentially, it's because he smells the nutrition that's still in the stool, and he's trying to glean it a second round.
I gotcha.
But chelated and proteinated minerals, zinc chelate, zinc proteinate, copper proteinate, copper chelate, that's what you want to see on the back of the bag. You only want to see those. Not
That's
just
what I was
those.
going to ask you. So chelated minerals is good. When you see chelated minerals, that's what you want to see. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stay away from sulfates and oxides. Those are
and you're right. That's something that nobody's going to look into, even that depth of it. I've never even looked into that depth of it myself, truthfully. I've looked at all the top other things that you've talked about. I've never made it that far because, like you said, the average person, and I consider myself above average with all the breeding and how long I've been doing this, I've never paid attention to the minerals. The importance of that was never expressed by anybody. But like you said, now recently I start seeing it on the bags. Chelated minerals, dips and out about minerals, they're starting to utilize that. Obviously, people are studying more, or, they want to get it out there more so people know that, hey, this is a better food because of this reason.
The reason they don't want to educate people on the importance of organic minerals is because they're expensive.
I was going to say it's expensive as heck, probably.
It's expensive.
Probably extremely expensive.
If you know to look for organic minerals, they're screwed.
Okay,
they don't want to put it in their food, man.
Right, I understand. I figured it was way expensive.
Yeah.
More expensive than the meat, right? More expensive than the meat part, correct?
Oh, yeah. These minerals are much better. I can make meat. It's hard to make more minerals.
Right, I got you. Okay.
Do you think that the dog food industry kind of follows these trends? Like, how like humans are, we're like, oh, everybody's gluten-free, now we have like keto, and then they just change the label on the same nutrition, like on the same product. Do dog food companies kind of do the same? Like, oh, well, people now they want antioxidants, and now we're going to say we have antioxidants in our food. Do they kind of do that too?
100%. Listen, the same companies that make human grade food make dog food. 100%. They play the same games with our dog food that they do with our food. So the grain-free dog food trend, if you look at it on an XY axis in conjunction with gluten-free food for humans, they mirror each other in their inception and in their growth. Makes sense. The companies that make dog food make our human gluten-free food too. They understood, man, humans are going to want to feed their dogs gluten-free. Give them a grain-free option. It was terrible for our dogs. They've since really just taken a dive in that regard because, the dog is going to tell you if it's good for them or not. The irregular heartbeats, cardiomyopathy in dogs just skyrocketed because of it. Dogs do need grain. They need roughage. They just need the right type and the right amount. So grain-free dog food is horrendous for dogs.
Another quick story if you want me to tell it. You guys want to hear another story with that? So it's wild that you're talking about that. So when that stuff first came out many years ago, a lot of people talked about it, and I said, there ain't no way in the world I'd feed it. Grains are important to the dogs, in my opinion. There's no way. What the hell would you feed that for? We're not eating it. People eating it, different story. So, I had a litter of pups one time, like 13 puppies. They all lived to be, 11, 10, 11, 12 years old as hell. One of the best dogs in the litter, the best dog in the litter, went with a very good friend of mine. Dog was in a movie and everything. And dog started getting a little sick, having some issues. And I want to say maybe 3.5, 4 years old. And, I'm talking to him and I'm like, Joe, listen, man, there's no issues with nothing. Like the other ones are healthy as oxes. He's still healthy, but, took him to the vet, Dr. Hutch's. And it was some heart type issues. And I'm like, man, we've never seen that. All the years we've been doing this, never seen nothing like it. I said, the only thing you're doing different is you're feeding that crazy ass expensive food, $100 for, 25 pounds. And I know you think you're doing the right thing for the dog because it's $100 for 25 pounds. Everybody else is getting 50 pounds or 40 pounds for $50. So, he's just a great guy, like really loves his dogs. And that's the bad thing. You got all kind of people that were out there feeding this grain-free, this and that, spending $100, $120 for a bag of dog food, thinking they were doing the best thing in the world for their dogs. And then finally, after going to Dr. Hutchinson's, after about, I want to say 18 months in, he tells my buddy and, myself, he said, listen, he goes, I can't say this is for sure, but I'm going to tell you what we're seeing. what are you feeding? And he says, is it grain free? He said, yeah. How'd you know? He's like, well, we're seeing a lot of dogs in here in all different breeds with these similar heart issues. And guess what the common denominator is? Grain free dog food. And it just blew his mind. And I'm like, man, you just got to switch it up. He switched it up. Unfortunately, it was fed too long. That didn't save the dog. He ended up passing way early. All the litter mates, healthy as oxes till 6 years later than that dog. And that was the best one. So, he would never feed it again. We would never feed again. Now, the crazy thing is about 2 years after Dr. Hutchison, in his mind, in his theory, because he's a vet, he's seeing millions of dogs coming in there and all these heart issues. There's one common denominator with all the families, grain-free dog food. Mm-hmm. It was positive. Like when he said it, I'm like, I don't have to hear no more. I don't care if everybody ever says it. If that's what's going on, we know this is what it is. I have a line that's strong as could be. Never had a heart issue. All of a sudden we got one. That's what it is. I'm convinced. About 18 months after he said it, maybe 2 years, FDA released a big statement all over the country. All these dog foods on this big list. I think his was number one because it was probably the most expensive because he got money and he wanted to make sure his dog was taken care of better than any dog in the world. So many good families killed their dogs. Their dogs died from this.
I'm one of them. My German Shepherd at 3 literally was like out on my deck. He looked over, he barked at the neighbor, and dropped out of a heart attack.
I had one girl in Canada calls me and starts telling me this, and I'm like, what are you feeding? She said grain-free. The dog was only like maybe 10, 11 months. I'm like, do me a favor. Get off of that shit. Switch immediately. I sent her the FDA thing. She showed it to her vet. She switched it. That dog, that little whatever it had going on, was gone in like 4 months. Yep. So if you caught it early, dogs were straight. They were cleaning right up. From what I understand, talking to other dog food people like nutritionists and stuff, they said that what it was they were putting a lack of taurine added to the food. It was all their fault. So they all still sell it because people are still buying it, but they bumped the taurine up and it's supposedly fixed. I don't believe it's fixed. That's just my opinion. I would never recommend it to nobody. People ask me all the time. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Don't ever feed it. Never. Not for the rest of my life. I will never tell somebody grain-free dog food. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, Ian? What have you seen? And Whitney, what's the story? You seen it killed a dog?
Well, I had a German Shepherd, which I also want to ask Ian this as well. Kind of goes along the same lines. But I had a German Shepherd that had a lot of intolerances to. I had him on like 12 different foods, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason I was on the grain food wasn't because I, fell into that trap. I was desperately trying to find something that wasn't going to make his skin irritated, hit ear infections, diarrhea, all that, right? So then I'm on the grain food or grain free for a while, and he was doing pretty good on that food. And then, like I said, he walked out of my house one day, perfect, fine as could be, looked over, barked at the neighbor, hit the ground. That was it. Dead right there. And then they found out that it was the dilated cardiomyopathy. So that was my experience. That was why my dog was on grain-free food, because I was like on my 12th dog food, and that was the one food he was okay on. Mm-hmm. So when you're seeing on your ground level, boots on the ground in the nutrition space, dogs who have a lot of allergies, right? Mm-hmm. Is that because of all of this garbage in the food? Do you see that that's more of a genetic thing, more of an environment thing? Like, can you talk on dogs who struggle with allergies and intolerances? Because I know you guys on your food, you basically offer sort of like one recipe, right? Yeah. Right? So that's interesting to me. Yeah. And if you could speak on that, because I'm super curious on how you can have one recipe, right? And what you're seeing in terms of allergies, skin issues, things like that. Because I have a dog here right now that I feel like, I don't really want to put him on chicken, right? Mm-hmm. But is that because the other chicken food that he was on wasn't maybe chicken. It's not a chicken issue? You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I get that all the time. And listen, I just want to start by saying, like, these dog owners shouldn't beat themselves up for what's happening to their dogs. They're doing their best. Yeah. The dog food industry is letting them down. And that comes from just looking for profit over putting a good product out there. Like you said, we have one formula. We have two, but the other formula is just one SKU of our formulas. The reason that our formulas work is because the right ingredients are put in that food and the right minerals are put in that food.
Mhm.
Most of the allergies that people think are allergies in dogs are because that's how they manifest themselves in people, right? So a loss of hair, itchy, yeasty ears, rashes on the dog, hot spots on the dog. I will tell you right now that if the dog's immune system is solid, the dog's going to be much healthier. That just makes sense. The number one thing we can do to boost his immune system is clean up his gut health, because 30% of energy requirements in a dog are for his gut. 70% of his immune system functions through gut tissue, and 90% of all diseases are traced back to gut health. So what you're feeding your dog is going to put most veterinarians out of business. And that's why they don't really want to talk about nutrition. It's the same reason that I don't go to the doctor very often, because I take care of myself. I'm proactive instead of being reactive. Now, what we see as allergies in dogs, okay? I talked briefly about it, but these rashes, these hot spots, these bald spots, the coat issue, the itching, that is a skin health issue. That skin is not conditioned. It's not getting the right omega-6s and 3s. The minerals are not making their way into the bloodstream and into the skin to do their job. So your dog has really bad skin health. A lot of yeast in the ears, that's another clear sign of too much yeast, too much soy probably in your food that you're feeding. But you clean all of that up. I'm talking about all of it with the diet. Our vet was throwing these allergy pills at our dogs daily. And all of that went away. You know, we had dogs that were on 7 different medications a day that were on 0 medications. Because again, we had the right genetics, we were just not fueling it properly. So again, most of your conditions that look like allergies in dogs, you think are allergies because that's what they look like in us. It's just nutrient deficiency. So clean up what you're putting in that dog's gut. And then really quickly about the gut, there's good bacteria in the gut. There's a lining of the gut wall, the stomach wall. And that lining there's a mucous membrane there. That's where all your bacteria lives. If the bad bacteria is allowed to get into the bloodstream through that barrier, you're going to have a problem. We're going to increase the good bacteria, decrease the bad bacteria. That's important for a lot of reasons. You're going to have a healthier dog with a better immune system, but for breeders, that is hugely important, because the ability of the female dog to pass the nutrition to the pups through the dog's stomach is paramount. And that's only going to happen if you have a really clean gut.
Let me give you a support on that story real quick, Ian. So what you're talking about with this, I have people call me all the time with all different breeds, family members, friends. I coach kids baseball, so they all know I'm a dog breeder. So to everybody around this town, I'm the dog doctor, not a doctor, but they call me with everything. Everybody that I know that has doctors, nurses I know have patients, they'll call and, hey, listen, they're having all kind of problems. The vet did this, the vet did that. And one of the things I asked, I'm like, can you get them on the phone? And they get the people on there. I'm like, let me ask you a question. All of this stuff you've been doing for the last 6 to 8 months, something's working, then it's not working, then they up the dosage. What kind of food you feed? And they tell me, I'm like, did your vet ever recommend trying different food? No, huh? I said, never even mentioned it, not one time. No, not at all. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty messed up. They've charged you about how much you've been going there every 2 weeks or every month or whatever, and you're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So in the last 10 months, you've spent like $4,000. Yes. Here's what I want you to do. Take them off all that shit. Go get this dog food. Try this. Give me a call in about 4 weeks. Let me know what happens. I'm Jesus Christ to them. Like they call me, my dog's fixed. He's perfect. Yeah. I don't believe my vet never told me. Well, your vet wouldn't get paid if he told you. So like what you're talking about with the vets, they don't even want to tell you that. Any veterinarian that has any dog that comes in to their office with skin or coat issues, the first thing they should talk about is dog food. Yeah. They don't even speak about that. They don't want to tell you that because they're not going to get paid if you just change your dog food and they recommend a dog food. So like I recommend, that's the first thing I tell people. If there's a bad infection, like, listen, you got to go get an antibiotic, but switch the dog foods also to something like you're talking about, and they're recovered. Like I just had a lady the other day, thank you very much. My dog's been great. It's, went to the vet for 10 months, treating with all kind of different things and switch the dog food. It's a super dog now, no issues.
The dog food industry has also made all of these different formulations to make money.
Right,
Okay?
right, yeah.
I hear people all the time that tell me, hey, my dog was doing, no, they don't tell me. They say, my dog is having these issues. I say, what are you feeding? They say this. I said, have you always fed that? They said, no, I was feeding something else. I said, how did you do on that? They said, oh, he was doing great. I said, why did you
switch for it?
I figured he was tired of eating chicken and he needed fish. Or I started eating fish, so I wanted him to eat fish. The dog food industry understands that people are raging idiots, and they're going to capitalize on it. They're going to make money off of it.
Absolutely, they are. Yes.
I don't care. We don't do that because we don't have. We feed the dog in front of us, man. We make food that's good for dogs. And again, we are not corporately owned. We are an independently owned American company. All of our ingredients come from this country. We don't have those problems. I don't have somebody over top of me saying, hey, for this batch of dog food, this is the price point we have to hit because this investor needs whatever, right? We will never be that way. So we can make the product that we make. But there's not many out there.
Do you
one
think
funny thing as a breeder that we'll get all the time too, like, you know, one of the things we'll get is people will see sometimes my dogs at dog shows and stuff like that, or anywhere, and they'll be like, hey, listen, you know, I talked to my breeder and I told him that your dog looks like it's a night and day difference what my dog looks like, and they just told me maybe just change the food or do this or do that or do a treadmill. I got to do this. I'm like, listen, here's the deal. Dog food's dog food, but you know, yeah, you got to feed a good dog food. What you're seeing here are genetics. That's not dog food. Good dog food I use that helps my dogs look great, coats are great, you know, structures are great, but it didn't make my dog, you know. So these people think that a dog food is a miracle worker, and it's going to take their dog that's horribly bred, poorly bred, terrible structure, terrible coats, terrible health, immune disorders, and dog food's going to fix it. I tell people all the time, like, listen, it's not going to fix what you got. You don't have a quality dog. You still want to feed a good quality food, but it's not going to fix it. Or do you guys see that? Do you guys see people coming to you with dogs that are just terribly bred? Like, can your dog food fix this? Is your dog food?
Yeah, we get it. And that's why I have that conversation about genetics, training, and nutrition. Okay. Now, everybody wants an immediate push button, you know, magical pill for dogs. Right? I will tell you that it's easier to get a dog in shape because a dog can't tell you if it doesn't want to do something or it's hungry or whatever it is. But man, the truth of the matter is most dogs, regardless of how poorly they're bred, you know, sure, he may his front legs may be shorter than his back legs or whatever it is, but he's going to have a healthy skin and coat. He's going to have a stool. He's going to have a clean gut. He's not going to have, you know, any of these other health issues. I'm sorry that your dog's got 3 legs because you didn't know what you were doing breeding. Right. Make him grow a 4th leg, but I can make him healthy.
He's healthy, right?
And fortunately for you, I can extend the life of this dog. And that was for us.
Well, it's kind of like in human nutrition. You're not just working on like the longevity of the dog. You're working on the health span of the dog. And to Tony's point too, is that genetics play a big role, but the foundation nutrition is what takes the dog to the genetic potential. Working and
what do you always say, Pam? Genetics loads the gun and
lifestyle pulls the trigger.
And lifestyle pulls the trigger.
And a huge part of that is the nutrition. Back to, I know we got to go wrap up here first in a second, but with the veterinarians, I think even working, you know, in the medical field with physicians and whatnot too, I personally, of course, think that veterinarians, sometimes they're just people, they don't know. They're working their job. They're here to keep your dog alive or make them better on surface level because that's what you're coming to them for. And I think that, you know, obviously there's a space for their nutrition education that they probably should have. But the same thing with the physician, the cardiologist is going to be there to keep your heart going. They're not going to tell you how to exercise because that's not their field too. So, you know, with that, I think with veterinarians, I think they probably need a little more education. But yeah, my vet has never given nutrition advice. Ever.
Yeah. Well, you'd be shocked if you asked the veterinary students how much in the years of vet school, how many hours they get of nutrition instruction. Because I've heard some really astounding numbers. And it's
hardly any. It's hardly any.
Same with physicians. Same with, you know.
2 last things, guys.
Yeah.
Two last things I want to make sure we catch. I don't want to cut it short, but I got to get my daughter in a little bit. But two last things I definitely want to catch, and I know it's important to you also. Supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Supplements was one thing we didn't talk about, and then feeding amounts, the importance of feeding amounts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So supplements, just my opinion on it, and I'll tell you guys all what it is, and so the whole world can hear it. I don't supplement anything. Like some people are like, oh, what do you supplement? How do you do this? How do you do that? If it's not a good dog food, yeah, maybe you got to supplement, but a good dog food, you shouldn't have to supplement. That's my opinion as a breeder. Like if I have to supplement a dog food and add this and add that, it's no good. I'm not using it. Why would I buy a dog food, no matter how much it costs me, to have to go supplement this or supplement that or supplement this? And other people are like, wow, I talked to such and such and they supplement this and this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, so they're spending an insane amount of money with all these crazy supplements, and the food you just told me is straight garbage.
Yeah.
Maybe they just need to change their food, and instead of being worried about saving money on the food and feeding this cheap ass garbage and expensive food because they're a big breeder and they have multiple dogs, feed a better food. Their dogs will overall do way better. You shouldn't have to supplement, in my opinion. As an expert with your field, what's your thoughts on that? When you feed this food, you're kinetic to all your dogs. Did you even bother supplement, or you didn't have to supplement anything?
No, I don't supplement. And that's the point of the supplement conversation. The same companies that own dog food companies own dog food supplement companies.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if they make a really good dog food, they're cutting out their supplement business.
Right. There you go. Yeah. Makes sense.
The dog food industry is letting you down because they're not making a product that's standalone, a complete formula that needs nothing else. If you put toppers on our food, you're going to run into trouble because our food is extremely nutrient dense and doesn't any excess you add to it has not been calculated in our formulation. So it's going to be too much for the dog. Right. Now I will tell you that we do have a supplement for gut health. Some of these dogs in my world, we'd get dogs from Europe and train them up to do what we needed them to do. Man, you don't know what they've been fed.
Right, I understand.
Or a dog eats a dead animal or drinks stagnant water out of a nasty pond.
Right.
We set that gut with the right pro and pre
off the bat.
From that supplement. A hydration supplement for to get dogs better hydrated. Again, they're being fed kibble. Not everybody's going to put water on the kibble like I do.
Right.
I would suggest everyone does. But if you want to boost your dog's hydration, it's like an electrolyte supplement for dogs, basically.
Okay.
Now, these are for dogs, again, that are doing things that are unimaginable to most people. Again, these supplements that we've created in a mass supplement for a dog that's really down in the hurt locker on weight. But the bottom line is, if you feed this food, you do not need supplementation.
Okay.
Every breeder wants to have their own little formula that they make for that lets them stand out. And I know that lets them look in the mirror and think, I'm awesome because of it. You're screwing it up if you do that with our food. And then feeding amounts, absolutely. Nutrient-dense food, if you increase the quality of the food, you're going to have to decrease the quantity that you're feeding.
Okay.
That's super important. So if you're having loose stool, decrease the amount and you're going to be good.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because it's more absorbable.
And that's why we only have one stool a day. Dogs that are eating 6 to 7 cups a day and you're just getting more stool, it's because it's passing right through them. We need to have one stool a day. It needs to be solid and firm. The ash rate of the food is the amount of nutrition in the stool of the food. And our ash rate is extremely low. And every single company should be able to tell you what their ash rate is. Ours is extremely low because all of the nutrition is absorbed in the food, so it doesn't make it to the stool.
That makes sense. This is a question that I get all the time. Some of my clients feed once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. Now in the Corso world, we're all scared to death of bloat, right? So we feed our dogs and we rest our dogs because that's like an absolute nightmare for us in the Corso world as far as like a fear. So I would assume 2 to 3 times a day is recommended, but are you a guy that thinks once a day?
Oh yeah,
I do once a day.
I do once a day. Yeah, we used to get to work early. Now all of our dogs are gastropexy, where we sew the stomach to the dermal layer of their stomach skin, so their stomachs can't flip. Right, you have a feeding tube coming in, you got a big stomach, and you got a tube going out. If that stomach gets full of content of food and water, they get to jumping around, it can flip. and then that cinches off. Now you got to have surgery. You got to go and flip the stomach back. So we sewed their stomachs. It couldn't flip. They could still bloat. We only feed once at the end of the day. Any amount of food that's in the dog's gut is going to require some energy to process. So if I'm going on a big run or I have a big workout planned, I got a 12-mile ruck, I'm not eating a big breakfast before I do that. If I'm about to go and do combatives and get the shit beat out of me or try to beat the hell out of somebody else, I'm not doing it with a bunch of food in my gut. The dogs are the same exact way. It's going to require energy to process that food. So I feed once and I feed at the end of the day. If you're treat training, you can spread that out throughout the day. But I really, really recommend feeding once at the end of the day for very active dogs.
And we're talking about adults, just so everybody watching this doesn't start feeding their 8-week-old puppy once a day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
You know, you guys said once a day, and my puppy looks like it's dying, and I did this for 2 weeks. Puppies got to be fed 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Good call.
Also, I'll always tell you guys,
Good job, Tony.
the dog guy, feed the dog in front of me. So if this dog needs to be fed, twice a day,
You got to bump it up.
If this dog needs to be fed once every 3 days,
Right.
saying to do that, but I feed the dog in front of me is
Right.
the best advice I can give any dog owner.
Yeah, and that's how I do it with portions. We'll go, like, even my nephew that works here, he's incredible. Like, we watch the dogs, and he knows when a dog might start looking a little thin. That dog's looking a little thin, bump it up a half a cup. That dog's looking a little overweight, back it off a half a cup. So every dog here, some of them might eat 4 cups, some might eat 6 cups. Some of my big males might eat 7 cups, but majority of them are 4 cups, 4.5 cups, 5 cups. Very few dogs are over that with the good food. And I'm
With
guessing
our food,
same
I
amount.
always recommend if you're going to go up or down, do it in quarter cup increments.
Right. Okay. Quarter instead of half.
It's too much,
Right.
for our food. But every food's a little bit different. I will tell you, this is an extremely nutrient dense food.
Right. Yeah. I just tried a house dog and I bumped him up 1 whole cup, a half cup extra in the morning and a half cup extra at night because he's maturing, he's getting bigger. I'm like, you know what? I think you put a little more on, a little bit tiny, showing a rib, and I'm like, let's bump him a half and a half. Explosive diarrhea the next day.
Yeah.
I should have went quarter cup, just like you said.
Yeah.
Only a half cup for that day. That 1 cup, hit him up, man.
Oh yeah. It'll get
Back it down to quarter cup. He's on time, looking incredible.
Yeah, good.
So, yeah, you're right on the money with the quarter cup. I agree.
Good.
So Ian, while we wrap up here, what is Kinetics mission for the dog food space and to help, pet owners and of course the working line? What's your mission?
Well, it's the same one that we started out with. It's how I found Kinetic in the military. This was being fed to our dogs there because we wanted to create the best dog food for a true performance dog, the healthiest dog food. Because yes, it's labeled as a performance dog food, but that doesn't mean it can't feed companion pets. A good performance dog food is just a healthy dog food because when you increase the health of the animal, you're going to increase his performance ability and capabilities. So that's all it is, making a really good, really healthy dog food, understanding that we can get it to you guys at a certain price point because we don't have these jack wagons above us telling us what we're going to have to sell it for. And if they did that, they tell us what was going to go in the food. That's why it's never going to happen. So we're just going to continue making the most nutrient dense and bioavailable healthy dog food for performance dogs and for everyday dogs. We just came out with another formula for companion pets specifically, less protein and less fat, all the same ingredients, and a big kibble for people that like to treat train. But that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to own the performance dog space. It's very easy for us to work with companion pets if you own the performance dog space. It's impossible for companies to go from companion pets to performance dog space because they're just not. They're not going to have the profit margin that they're used to. That's not something we've ever been focused on. So that's why it's very easy for us to play in both spaces. But again, a very, very, very healthy dog food that's nutrient dense, highly absorbable. That's going to give you all day energy, give you recovery rates that you need. And for guys like Tony who want a very, very healthy dog that's going to give him great puppies, great litters, great milk production, and continue letting people do what they love to do with these dogs, keep them around for as long as they can be around for. That's what we're going to continue to do for the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a try, and I'm going to let people know right now I am going to be giving this food a try, and we're going to come on here, whether it's a couple months down the road, but we're going to see how it does for me with the dogs, the way they look, their coats, eyes, everything about them, the things I just talked about. I've tried over 25 different dog foods and stuck with a couple for periods of time, got rid of a couple quick, very quick. Within, you really don't know the difference for a good 6 weeks, in my opinion. I don't know how long do you think, Ian, should you start seeing the difference coat-wise, eye-wise, with the dog stool-wise? You think 6 weeks is a good
No,
assessment?
I'd say about 2 weeks. Really. Yeah, to be honest with you, it happens very quickly. I do transition dogs pretty quickly. What happens if you're mixing it a lot of times is the dog picks our food out because the dog can smell the difference in ingredients.
Good.
If you're only giving him a quarter cup, he's only getting a quarter cup of food.
Okay.
So
No, we're going to give it a shot.
if that happens, I just transition them a little quicker.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to give it a shot. I'm going to be able to tell you breedings and how mom's milked up. I'm going to be able to tell you and everybody else that's following. We're going to do another podcast, and I'm going to give the advice to everybody. And it may be something I tell people all over the world to switch to. It may not work what I expect, but I expect good things from it, or I wouldn't give it a try. So I am going to give it a try. We're going to use it on females, puppies growing up. We're going to give it a try, and I'm going to give you the honest truth. And that's what you guys are looking for. You've been incredibly honest the whole time that we've talked to you. That's why you're on the podcast. We need experts like you. I don't want any of my podcasts that we're going to do with anybody that I don't consider an expert at all. That's why we're watched all across the world, all across the country. I got people reaching out to us from other countries for questions to help out and give advice. I didn't know that was going to hit that many people, but it's hitting worldwide, and it's a great thing. So looking forward to that next podcast when we do that. Yeah, I appreciate you being on.
If somebody, as a pet dog, if somebody switched over, what would they notice first? Like less shedding, less poops.
The first thing you'll notice, and I wouldn't free feed this food. You need structure.
Yeah.
There are feeding recommendations on the side of every bag. Feed the right amounts. Probably start off lower than the recommended amount because most companion pets are overweight. So it's not really the weight that they need to be in. So start a little lower. But immediately they're going to see an increase in the dog's desire to eat the food because it's extremely palatable because of the high meat-based ingredient content. From there, you're going to see less stool. You're going to see a more consistent, firmer stool once you fully transition. And then you're really going to start seeing that skin and coat improve. And energy levels, sorry, if you like Pookie on the couch to be Pookie on the couch, he may be a different dog. But again, there are different levels of our formula, all the same ingredients, just different ratios of fat and protein. So if you need more energy, again, for performance dogs, or if you need less, you can do that without changing formulas.
So what would Tony feed? So Tony, what are you going to feed? What formula are you going to use?
I think it was called, you got like a 28. Was there a 28?
Yeah, 28-15 is our puppy food. That's 28% protein, 15% fat. But a 26-16 is what I recommend for most companion pet owners.
Okay.
Those dogs that are, you're going to have all day energy with that food. You're going to have good recovery rates. But that's the starting point, basically. Now, for other companion pets that aren't really working that much, we're launching a 25-14.
A little lower, I got you.
It's called Core, Kinetic Core. And that's our lowest formulation that we have.
But you have a 30 or something. You have above a 28 too, right?
We have a 30-20. We have a 32-24.
32-30, okay.
And we have a 24-18, which is a beef protein and pork fat. It's also a real big kibble for treat training mainly, but it's a complete dog food.
Okay.
Now, 24-18 is, less than 26-16, but it is extremely nutrient rich because of the beef protein and pork fat.
I got you. Okay.
So Tony, you would feed the one for the moms. You're
I'm going to try the 28 and I'm going to try the 26, but for moms especially, I'm going to definitely try the 28. Maybe some of the adult dogs, males and stuff, I might try that 26. But I'm feeding stuff right now that is 28, so I'd hate to go to a 26. And I think the food that I'm feeding is a really good food too, like yours. And we've talked about it. I told you what it was, and you guys even said, hey, that's one of the good ones, with you guys. Not many that I think compare, but you guys do, in my opinion. But I'm going to definitely give it a try, and I hope to see them. What I'm looking to see is if them fronts are straight on my puppies, it's over with. I'm with you guys 100%. I spend about $3,000 a month on dog food, so insane, man.
Man, for sure.
So where would people find the dog food if they want to try it themselves?
Single bags you can find on Chewy.com or Walmart.com. We do ship pallets direct, but I'd never ask somebody to take a pallet without trying it. So go on Chewy.com, go on Walmart.com and look for it there. 2616 is kind of your baseline. That's still a pretty active food. 30-20 is for, if you really want good, big muscle definition on a dog. Like if you guys are big into Cane Corsos, that's a muscled up dog. Just walking around, that dog is going to build more muscle than your average house pet. So for some of those dogs, they may need the 30-20 just because of the muscle mass and the amount of muscle they have.
So you think 30 could even help with these guys with the muscle?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful for your muscle development. And again, that meat-based protein is the way to go. You're going to see a stark difference. But the fat and the carbs and the fiber and the minerals especially, that's when you're really going to see that coat come.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you guys off, but my daughter, I'm watching the thing. I got the GPS for the time I'm going to make it to her school in here.
Yeah.
So she'll panic in a little bit.
Yep. And we can wrap it up here too.
Stay on. You guys could stay on.
Yeah, we'll stay on for a second.
You guys can keep talking after me. But did we cover every single thing in that you wanted to cover too? Is there anything we missed at all?
No, man. I mean, we could talk about this all day, and we can do another podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna have you back. We'll have you back for sure.
Sure. Good. I'd love to be here.
Thank you for sharing all of your wealth of knowledge. We appreciate it. I know our audience will appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you so much for taking our questions.
Yes, all of your time. And of course, Tony, for asking all the appropriate questions for all the breeders and people that want to get their dogs to their genetic potential. And we just really appreciate your time. And I look forward to the next podcast.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. And I will reach out to you too also within a couple weeks after trial, just to let you know a little bit, up front too.
Yeah, man. You got my number. Reach out anytime.
You got it, man. Sounds good, everybody.
All right, guys. I just want to kind of officially wrap it up. I'll kind of edit some of that, put that out there. But nope, Ian, we greatly appreciate you. And we just want people to like, subscribe, share, and kind of get the word out with you, because we are just as passionate, here with Tony and Whitney, of course, about the health span of these dogs and helping them reach their full potential.
Yes, I love how you said you have genetics, training, and nutrition. Without all three of those legs on the stool, it's not going to be good. I love that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'll put all your stuff in the comments and all those things, and let everybody know where they can find you. So
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me so much, guys. It's been fun.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you guys.